The world was promised a revolution, a celebration of soccer so massive it would redefine the sport's global footprint forever. Gianni Infantino stood before the cameras, his voice filled with a confidence that echoed across every continent, promising hundreds of thousands of fans. But as we stand just months away from the opening whistle, that golden promise is rapidly transforming into a high-stakes corporate nightmare. A silent panic is spreading through the boardrooms of the host cities, and the headlines are starting to tell a very different story. 8 months before kickoff, the hotels are panicking, and the reason isn't the fans, it's FIFA itself. In the long and often turbulent forgotten soccer history, we have seen many tournaments face challenges, but nothing quite like this. While the public is being fed a diet of epic promos and stadium renders, the actual data suggests a catastrophic disconnect. We are witnessing the B side of soccer in real time, where the glossy marketing of the biggest World Cup ever meets a cold reality. The hotels are panicking, the contracts are being torn up, and the very foundation of the 2026 dream is starting to crumble. The first crack appeared months before anyone noticed, and the very organization selling the dream was quietly walking away from its own reservations. This isn't just about a few empty rooms. It's about a fundamental shift that could haunt soccer legends for generations to come. What was supposed to be a triumph of logistics and passion is becoming a case study in how to alienate an entire global audience. As we peel back the layers of this investigation, you'll see that the biggest party on earth might be a very lonely affair. Was this ever about the fans? Or was the World Cup always just a number on a balance sheet? The answer lies in a betrayal coming from inside the system, starting with the boom that never was. The initial promise for World Cup 2026 was nothing short of a financial revolution for North American tourism. FIFA, backed by studies from the WTO and tourism economics, painted a picture of a used $30 billion economic injection. This was supposed to be the biggest tourism event in modern American history, spanning 3 nations and 16 host cities. With 48 teams and 104 matches, the scale was designed to shatter every record in the history of soccer. The narrative was clear. A goldmine for local businesses, from small cafes to the largest hotel chains. In the context of forgotten soccer history, no tournament had ever attempted a geographic expansion of this magnitude. Organizers sold the idea that the sheer volume of games would guarantee a constant flow of international visitors. The plan relied on the presence of soccer legends drawing fans from every corner of the globe into the U.S. Every host city was told to prepare for a once-in-a-lifetime boom that would justify massive infrastructure investments. It was a vision of a unified continent celebrating the beautiful game while reaping unprecedented financial rewards. However, this status quo was built on a series of projections that assumed the world would follow the hype. The B side of soccer reveals that these billion-dollar dreams were anchored to a very specific, fragile set of assumptions. As the marketing machine ramped up, the reality of hosting 48 teams across such a vast territory began to set in. While the public focused on the 104 games, the hospitality industry started noticing the first cracks in the narrative. The promise of a US $30 billion windfall was about to face its first, and perhaps most devastating reality check. The first crack in the billion-dollar narrative appeared months before anyone noticed, hidden within the hospitality industry's data. While FIFA was busy selling a dream, the American Hotel and Lodging Association released a report that sent chills through host cities. In 9 out of the 11 American venues, hotel bookings were significantly lower than the projections for World Cup 2026. This wasn't just a minor dip. It was a clear signal that the expected global stampede for rooms simply wasn't happening. For the first time since the pandemic, revenue per available room actually fell, exposing a massive gap in the soccer hype. In the context of forgotten soccer history, a World Cup usually triggers a desperate, years-long rush for any available bed. Fans would traditionally compete for space, driving prices up and filling every corner of a host nation with vibrant energy. But the B side of soccer in North America is telling a different story, one of empty corridors and silent reservation systems. The disconnect between the biggest event ever and the actual market demand is becoming impossible for local businesses to ignore. Even the aura of future soccer legends isn't enough to convince international travelers to commit to these early, expensive bookings. This data suggests that the narrative of a guaranteed economic boom was, at best, a massive overestimation by the organizers. Hoteliers who invested millions in renovations are now staring at spreadsheets that don't match the glossy promises they were sold. We are witnessing a unique moment where the scale of the tournament is failing to translate into real-world fan engagement. As the industry's panic begins to simmer, the focus shifts from the fans' lack of interest to a much more sinister cause. The real betrayal, it turns out, wasn't coming from the public, but from the very organization that owns the game. This is the absolute heart of the investigation, the moment where the biggest party in history reveals its darkest secret. FIFA had initially used its immense power to block thousands of hotel rooms across North America for its own massive entourage. We are talking about premium space reserved for coaching staffs, technical teams, and high-level corporate sponsors. But in a move that sent shockwaves through the hospitality industry, the organization silently released 70% of those blocks. The very entity selling the dream of a sold-out continent was quietly walking away from its own massive reservations. In some host cities, the betrayal was even more staggering, with cancellation rates reaching a jaw-dropping 95%. This isn't just a logistical adjustment, it's a clear signal that the internal confidence in the boom is collapsing. Scott Yesner from Bespoke Stay has witnessed this firsthand, describing a market where owners are starting to panic. They are slashing prices in a desperate bid to fill the void left by the organization that promised them a gold mine. The B side of soccer shows that while the public sees a celebration, the business partners are seeing a shipwreck. In forgotten soccer history, FIFA's presence was always a guarantee of stability and prestige for any host nation. But for World Cup 2026, the rules of the game have changed, and the loyalty to local partners seems to have vanished. Even soccer legends would be surprised to see the organization that governs the sport undermining its own host cities. This internal retreat is the ultimate proof that the official narrative of a guaranteed success is a carefully constructed illusion. As these rooms hit the market all at once, the resulting ripple effect is about to bring the entire industry to its knees. The sudden influx of thousands of rooms back into the open market is triggering a massive wave of panic across the hospitality sector. Hoteliers who had spent millions on renovations and extra staffing specifically for World Cup 2026 are now facing a stranded investment. Vijay Dandapani, from the New York Hotel Association, confirms that the expected major surge in demand has simply failed to materialize so far. In cities like Philadelphia and Kansas City, the once solid contracts are collapsing, leaving local business owners in a desperate race to the bottom. The B side of soccer reveals a grim reality where the promised gold mine has turned into a fight for basic survival. This downward spiral is forcing even the most prestigious establishments to slash their prices in a bid to attract any kind of traveler. The strategy of premium pricing for the tournament is being abandoned as the industry realizes the international fans aren't coming in droves. In forgotten soccer history, host cities usually enjoyed a period of unprecedented prosperity, but 2026 is breaking that tradition in the worst way. We are seeing a trend where the investments made to welcome soccer legends are now becoming a heavy financial burden for local communities. The World Cup effect is currently working in reverse, driving revenue down before the first ball has even been kicked in North America. The atmosphere in the boardrooms of these host cities is one of quiet desperation as they realize the boom was a hollow promise. Every day that passes without a surge in bookings makes the initial $30 billion projection look more like a work of pure fiction. This isn't just a minor market correction. It's a fundamental failure of the economic model that was sold to the American public. As the prices continue to plummet, the focus is shifting toward the external factors that are making the U.S. a difficult destination. The crisis is now moving beyond the hotel lobbies and into the complex world of global travel and geopolitical tension. The crisis surrounding World Cup 2026 is now expanding far beyond the pitch, fueled by a volatile mix of global politics and economic instability. As the United States prepares for a new administration, the shifting geopolitical landscape is making the country appear increasingly unwelcoming to many international visitors. This isn't just about rhetoric. The B side of soccer reveals that travel patterns are being dictated by the rising costs of jet fuel and regional conflicts. With tensions in Iran and the potential closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the price of international flights is reaching levels that are simply prohibitive for the average fan. You can't expect to fly thousands of supporters across the Atlantic when the fuel for the journey costs more than the match tickets themselves. In forgotten soccer history, the tournament was a bridge that could temporarily bypass global tensions, but the scale of today's crisis is different. The logistical dream of a three-nation cup is being sabotaged by a reality where global mobility is becoming a luxury reserved for the ultra-wealthy. We are seeing a scenario where soccer legends will compete in front of local crowds because the international global village can no longer afford the trip. The Trump factor, combined with Middle Eastern instability, is creating a perfect storm that is effectively grounding the world's most passionate fan bases. This geopolitical sabotage is the silent engine driving the decline in international demand that has left the host cities in a state of shock. For a tournament that was sold as a celebration of global unity, the current environment feels more like a series of closed borders and economic walls. The dream of a $30 billion boom is evaporating as the cost of simply reaching the host cities becomes a barrier that no marketing campaign can overcome. We are witnessing a moment in soccer where the external world is forcing the game to shrink back into a localized, less vibrant version of itself. The very fuel that powers the aviation industry is now the same element that is burning through the expectations of the 2026 organizers. And as the sky-high costs keep fans at home, another invisible barrier is waiting for those who still dare to try and make the journey. The dream of attending World Cup 2026 is being dismantled by a bureaucratic nightmare that many international fans never saw coming. In key markets like Mexico, Morocco, and several African nations, the wait times for U.S. visas have reached levels that are simply absurd. For thousands of passionate supporters, the tournament has effectively ended at the embassy gate before a single ball was even kicked. This invisible wall is creating a silent boycott, where fans are choosing to stay home rather than face a hostile and slow immigration system. The B side of soccer reveals that the Open World Cup promised by the organizers is becoming a gated event for a select few. In forgotten soccer history, the host nation usually made every effort to facilitate the entry of fans to ensure a vibrant global atmosphere. But the current reality in the U.S. suggests a different priority, where security protocols are being prioritized over the spirit of international unity. We are seeing a scenario where soccer legends will play in front of stands that lack the diverse, colorful energy of past competitions. The image of the United States as a difficult and unwelcoming destination is spreading rapidly through social media and fan forums worldwide. Instead of a global celebration, the 2026 edition is looking more like a localized tournament with a very narrow international presence. This growing frustration is fueling a movement of fans who are openly encouraging others to skip the North American trip entirely. The narrative of a unified cup is being shattered by the reality of thousands of rejected or delayed visa applications every single day. Organizers are realizing too late that you can't have a truly global soccer festival if the world isn't allowed to show up. The silence from the embassy queues is a loud warning that the biggest World Cup ever might be missing its most important ingredient. As the gates remain closed for many, the tension reaches a breaking point with a direct warning from the very top of the old guard. The tension surrounding World Cup 2026 reached a fever pitch when Sepp Blatter, the man who once sat at the very top of FIFA, dropped a bombshell on the North American dream. In a move that shocked the global soccer community, the former president publicly suggested that fans should stay away from the event in the United States. This unprecedented warning from an insider has acted as a catalyst for a growing wave of resentment that is now manifesting in digital spaces. On platforms like Reddit and X, the non-boycott movement is gaining significant traction, with groups dedicated to exposing the tournament's flaws and encouraging fans to return their tickets. When the person who ran the organization for decades tells you not to show up, it's a sign that something has gone deeply and perhaps irrevocably wrong. The B side of soccer is now filled with stories of disillusioned supporters who are choosing to walk away from their lifelong dreams of attending a World Cup. We are witnessing a unique moment in forgotten soccer history, where the fans are actively organizing against the biggest event in the sport. The narrative of a global celebration is being replaced by a digital battlefield where the ethics of the 2026 expansion are being fiercely debated. Even the aura of future soccer legends isn't enough to quell the anger of those who feel the tournament has become a soulless corporate machine. As the movement grows, the once guaranteed sellout crowds are looking more like a fragmented and divided audience that is losing faith in the game's leadership. This peak of emotional tension is the ultimate nightmare for the organizers who promised a $30 billion economic boom. The Blatter bomb has given a voice to the silent boycott, turning individual frustrations into a collective and powerful rejection of the FIFA model. We are seeing a scenario where the prestige of the trophy is being overshadowed by the controversy of its host and the methods used to sell it. The pressure is mounting as the world watches to see if the 2026 edition can survive this massive blow to its credibility and public image. And as the dust settles from this explosion, we are left to examine what remains of the tournament's promised legacy and the future of the sport itself. The dream of a global economic boom is evaporating, leaving behind a stark reality where the biggest World Cup ever is already consolidated as a narrative failure. While the stadiums in North America will likely still be filled with local fans, the promised international soccer fever has been replaced by a cold corporate calculation. We are witnessing a dangerous precedent where the tournament is no longer about the people, but about a balance sheet that prioritizes numbers over the soul of the game. This shift puts the entire legacy of future soccer legends at risk, as the stage they play on becomes increasingly disconnected from the global audience. The image of the US as a host is already being tarnished, casting a long and dark shadow over the feasibility of the 2031 and 2034 editions. In the long and storied forgotten soccer history, we have never seen a betrayal of this magnitude coming from the very top of the sport's leadership. The question we must ask ourselves is simple but provocative. Was this tournament ever truly about the fans, or was it always just a massive financial gamble? The B side of soccer reveals that when you treat the world's most popular sport as a mere commodity, you risk losing the very passion that makes it valuable. If the stadiums are full, but the hearts of the global supporters are empty, the trophy itself begins to lose its shine and its historical weight. We are at a crossroads where the future of the World Cup depends on our ability to demand a return to the authentic values of the pitch. If you believe that the truth about the beautiful game deserves to be told, then your engagement with this story is more critical than ever before. Subscribe to the channel and join our community of fans who refuse to look away from the cracks in the corporate facade of modern soccer. Next week, we are going even deeper as we expose the secret FIFA contracts that no one in the mainstream media wants you to read. Share this investigation with everyone who still believes that the World Cup should belong to the fans, not just the boardrooms and the billionaires. Together, we can ensure that the next chapter of our sport is written by those who actually love the game, rather than those who just want to sell it. The story of World Cup 2026 is reaching a crossroads where the soul of the game hangs in a delicate balance. We've seen how the pursuit of record-breaking revenue can cloud the vision of even the most prestigious organizations in soccer. But knowledge is power, and by understanding these hidden forces, you are no longer just a passive spectator in this corporate game. Apply this critical lens the next time you see a flashy promo or a high-priced ticket offer for the upcoming tournament. Remember that the true value of the sport lies in the community we build, not the numbers on a FIFA balance sheet. Are we truly watching the evolution of the beautiful game, or is this the beginning of a permanent emotional emptying? I want to hear from you in the comments. Would you sacrifice the scale of the tournament to bring back its original heart? Your perspective is the most important part of this conversation, and it's what keeps the spirit of soccer legends alive today. This is a call for a transformation in how we consume and protect the sport that has given us so many unforgettable memories. Let's ensure that when the world gathers in 2026, it's for the love of the game and nothing else, far from the boardrooms. If you believe that the B side of soccer deserves to be heard, subscribe to the channel and activate all notifications. By joining our community, you are supporting a mission to uncover the forgotten soccer history and the truths hidden from the mainstream. Share this video with your friends, your teammates, and anyone who still feels that spark when the ball hits the back of the net. Together, we can make sure that the heart of the game continues to beat louder than any corporate contract or empty promise. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for being part of the most passionate fan base on the planet. See you in the next story.